Welcome to Encounter, where we celebrate putting faith into action and community leaders who live out compassion, grace, and love. We're a program of the Broome County Council of Churches that addresses food insecurity through CHOW and the Greater Good Grocery, provides hospital and jail ministry, builds wheelchair ramps, and assists neighbors with transportation and shopping services through Faith in Action volunteers. We invite you to the conversation. Encounter your neighbors as we learn to walk together in love and kindness.
Good morning and welcome to Encounter. I'm your host today, Joe Sellepack, Executive Director at the Broome County Council of Churches. One of the great organizations in our area that really helps a lot of children is A Room to Heal. A Room to Heal is a volunteer-driven project that has evolved over time, and they're celebrating a big anniversary this year. And to help us talk a little bit about the Room to Heal and the work that they do is their executive director, Laura Sehn. Laura, it's great to have you on Encounter today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Laura, how does one become an executive director of A Room to Heal? What's your background, and how did you become executive director?
Gosh, so I've actually been involved with the organization almost from the beginning, way back in 2006. I happened to be at a Binghamton Mets game back when they were the B-Mets.
Yeah,
and
I remember that.
yeah, and so the organization was tabling, and they were talking about what they did, and it was one of those things that sounded fun. You know, it was very surface at the time. It was like, I like to paint, decorating's fun. I had two little kids at the time. Well, I had one kid at the time, almost two. So I started becoming a volunteer. I helped on, I think their second or third rooms, doing some wallpaper borders, way back in the day when you actually still did that. And so I helped off and on for a while. I had a second child, and so I took a step back. And then in 2011, I got a phone call from Lori Abbas, who was the president and one of the founders. And she just asked me if I would be interested in working on a project. So I led my first project in 2012. And then right after that, she asked if I wanted to be on the board, and I'm very bad at saying no, so so I ended up on the board. And then we came to kind of a crossroads in right around 2022. And we had a lot of people who had been on the board for a while, and we're kind of figuring out, like, what do we need to do to make the organization, keep going? And that was when we decided we needed to hire somebody. And at first they were like, Laura, you should throw your hat in the ring. And it was like, I don't know. But then, the universe works in weird ways. And I ended up saying I was interested. And so then, I took a step back from everything. And then the board, looked at different options and stuff and worked with a consultant. And at the end of the day, they ended up hiring me, and so that's why I'm here now.
Well, and what a good choice it was, right?
It is, yeah. I think for myself and for the organization, and
right.
Just having that knowledge of the almost the entire history of the organization.
So let's talk a little bit about that history. Like, how did A Room to Heal begin, and what does it stand for?
So way back in the early 2000s, one of our founders happened to be on a business trip, reading a magazine, came across an article about these two women who started an organization that created healing spaces for kids. Around the same time, she had another friend who had a child going through leukemia treatments, and it was one of those light bulb moments. So when she got home, she presented that idea to our other co-founder, and the two of them got to work and developed the idea, and then back in 2005, they held a luncheon with a bunch of their friends just to share the idea, to see if there was interest.
And who were those people?
So Lori Abbas and
Lori
Linda
Abbas
Salomons.
And Linda Salomon.
Yep.
And they were friends? So
They were, yep.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yep.
And when they held that luncheon, was that to help get support and to begin a project, or was there somebody already in mind that they were looking to help?
I don't think they had anyone in mind at the time. It was really just to share the idea and, form a group of people who would become the first board.
Okay.
And they also did it as kind of a fundraiser to raise a little pot of money just to kind of get things off the ground.
Because it is expensive to start a nonprofit, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So what's one of the things I don't think that a lot of people know is I'll just start a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Well, it takes a lot of time and energy to get to the point where
Absolutely.
where you start something like that, right?
Yeah, and people, like you can't, it's very difficult to do it on your own.
Right, and so it's important to, and the other thing that you can't, that everyone assumes is that, and I've talked to a lot of people, well, I'll be the president, my husband will be the treasurer, I'll get my aunt to be the vice president, and you put this family thing together, and then, of course, family dynamics come into play, power is never shared, and then the whole thing folds or collapses.
Yeah.
So it's important to have things done correctly, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so and how did you begin to get to the point where you would have people applying for a room? Because this is ultimately what it's about, right?
Yep. Yeah, so a lot of it started just, and honestly still is, a lot of it's very word of mouth.
Yeah.
You know somebody who knows a family who has a child with an illness. And then much of the time when, if you have a child with an illness, you're going to know all the other families who have other children with that same illness. So that's how we get a lot of our kids still. And we have a lot of connections with the Upstate Foundation and Golisano and school districts, and we just kind of keep our eyes and ears open and are always asking people to make sure to tell us about kids if they learn of them.
And now, are you centered in Broome County, or is it a regional kind of thing? How far out do you go?
So we're based in Binghamton, but we serve a 15-minute radius from Binghamton.
Okay.
So we cover quite a few counties.
Well, yeah, 50 minutes will get you almost to Corning.
Yeah, if you drive fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we cover all of Tioga, Broome County, Shenango County, into Delaware, up into Cortland a little bit.
And what are some of the folks, like you mentioned leukemia? It must be these must be children who are going through some pretty significant illnesses, right?
Yeah, children who are going through serious illnesses. Who have severe conditions that really affect their day-to-day. And things like, we had a child who had an amputation, or, things that kind of all of a sudden upend their world and change their lives. Right.
And what kind of, what does having a healing space mean? Because you used that word at the beginning, or a way of describing it. Well, what does that mean, and what does it mean for the child?
Yeah. It's something that I think has really, even our knowledge of what it is has evolved over time. The goal is to really make a space for the child that works for them medically, and also physically. So If we have a child in a wheelchair, we want to make sure that they can utilize everything in their bedroom. We want to make sure that the flooring works for them, that they can reach their clothes in their closet, that type of thing. So we want to make sure that spaces are safe for the kids. Once in a while, we'll have a child that we really focus on safety.
Right.
But on top of that, we want to make it a space that they feel comforted in, that really makes them feel secure and safe and loved, and makes them feel like just a kid. Yeah, so many of these kids, when they're diagnosed with something, their lives are just so turned upside down.
Right.
And now they're just at doctor appointments all the time, and it's scary. They don't know what's going on. So just making sure they have a space where they can relax and feel comforted is important.
Now, do you have children that require like doors to be widened and other kinds of things like that? Like structural issues.
So we don't do anything that's like major construction.
Right.
We will widen a door. We've replaced windows. We'll do things if it's appropriate for the child's condition. We'll do things like that. We'll replace flooring a lot, put in like a solid floor versus carpet.
Right. Especially for like a wheelchair or a walker or any number of other things. But
we don't do big things, like we won't build an addition or take down walls. We just don't have the bandwidth to do things like that.
Yeah, and so like you said, it's designed to help a child feel like a child when they go into their room and not a patient, right?
Yes.
So like what are some of the ways that kind of gets expressed?
A lot of times it comes down to storage. We're actually currently starting a new project, and this little guy has just a lot of equipment and supplies. And his dad was like, I just want his room to not look like a hospital room.
Right.
So putting things behind closed doors, adding storage so you're not looking at supplies all day long.
Right.
Or, when kids are in hospital-style beds, just kind of camouflaging that a little bit, adding fun sheets and pillows and making that not the focus of the space.
And that would be also, I'm thinking fun too, right? Or something that really kind of meets the kids' interest or something, right?
Yeah, we spend a lot of time talking to the kids, talking to their families, and really learning about them. A couple more recent projects have been for older kids, and I'm like, put a Pinterest board together, go and like look at the things that you like, and that really gives them something to do and helps them take ownership of it a little bit. It's helpful for us because trying to design a project for a 16-year-old girl isn't the easiest, unless you really, really know them.
Yeah.
But it makes it fun for them and for us.
And what are some of the most memorable projects that you've worked on that have come out that way? I don't know, horses, whatever. I don't know.
Yep.
There must be some things that kind of are memorable.
Yeah. I've done a number of projects now.
How many have you done?
Personally?
Yeah, have you counted them?
I had a while back. It's got to be. I've probably led maybe a dozen, but I've worked on a lot of them.
Right.
And we're coming up on 150. So
150 rooms.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we've done a lot.
Over 20 years, that's a couple of a year, right?
Yeah, we average probably 10 to 12 a year.
10 to 12 a year.
Yeah. One year we did 16, and then we said we would never do that again because it was a lot of rooms. But 10 to 12 is a nice sweet spot.
Right.
One of my favorite ones was for a little girl, and she loved Moana. And
who is that?
so Moana is a Disney character.
Okay.
And this little girl, she's gosh, I'm forgetting the term. Medically not sensitive, but like she had a lot of things going on. Super sweet family, and so we got one of those fat heads, which is like the sticker that you can put on her wall.
Right.
And we put it right next to the bed, and she would just stare at her. And it was the cutest thing, just the reaction that we got from that. It was like her new best friend in her room. And she would, lay there, and she would just like stare at her and kind of smile and stuff. And it was very cute. That was a really fun project to work on. Gosh, we've had so many.
My guest today is Laura Sehn. She is the executive director at A Room to Heal, and we've been talking about some of their projects that they've been doing, and one of the things that you mentioned at the beginning was that it was a volunteer organization, and you probably I can't imagine that you would do all of these projects without a lot of volunteers, correct? So look. What kind of volunteers are you looking for, and how can people kind of get plugged into A Room to Heal in volunteering? Yeah, so we do. We use a lot of volunteers, and I actually added up last year. And in my mind, I thought, we probably had like 30 or so, and we had almost 100. 100, yeah. Yeah, I was like, wow. But we use a lot of volunteers for projects. Project leads are probably our biggest need, and they're the person who kind of, takes control of the project, meets with the child, does the interviews, and kind of organizes the volunteers. People who can kind of do like the interior design side of things. We always are looking for people who are handy, who can, and you don't even have to be super handy. Like if you can hang a television on the wall, like that's the level of handy that we usually need. People who can hang wallpaper, just a lot of those skills that I feel like people don't have so much anymore. Right, they're relying on people that they hire to do that, right? Instead of doing it themselves, right? Yeah. And then even just people who can do things like when we table at an event, who can learn about the organization and be there, right? So that myself or our board members don't, sometimes we can't make it, so we have to say no to things. But if we have volunteers who can do that, then we can be at more stuff. And if a person wanted to volunteer with A Room to Heal, how would they get connected to you? So right on our website, at the top it says Get Involved, and that will take you to an area that tells you all the different ways that you can get involved with the organization. And what is your website address? Oh, that's helpful. It's www.aroomtoheal.org. Okay, and so if they go onto the website, they can find a volunteer form? Yes. And then fill the volunteer form, and it goes to you, obviously. Does. Yep. So then they get to meet with you. Yeah, so then we'll reach out to them, and we start sharing volunteer opportunities. Okay. Yeah, so every time we have something come up, I shoot out an email to everybody and see who's available and who can help. And I would imagine that being as you're working primarily with children, that a background check is necessary, and a bunch of other things like that, right? Yep. Yeah. So you're looking for volunteers who are handy, who can hang wallpaper, maybe hang up a TV on the wall.
If you can assemble IKEA furniture, that's a bonus.
that would be really handy.
Yep.
And so, how long have you been in existence, and why is this year kind of special for you?
So we're coming right up on our 20th year.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's kind of crazy that it's been almost 20 years. You know, we talk about you know, why we're needed quite a bit, and I think just every project we do, we recognize just what a difference we make for the families. And again, like, as you grow as an organization, you learn things that you didn't even know were going to be an impact in the beginning. And it's pretty obvious the impact that we have on the kids, you know, just making their room special for them. But the impact that we have on the parents is something that we really didn't think about in the beginning. And it's just, I think as a parent, you understand that when you see your child just so excited about something and just so happy that it makes things so different for you. And we make sure that we also incorporate things that do help the parents in the kids' rooms. And some of those ways are just by making the child more independent and organizing things and allowing them to just have a breather and have a little bit of space that in turn makes them, you know, makes it easier for them to parent.
Yeah, I would imagine that as a parent, when your child is going through a serious illness, it isolates you and it makes you feel like you have the disease yourself. It's like caring for the child is caring for yourself in a lot of ways too. And so just to share that with somebody must be a relief. I would imagine it would be a huge relief on a mother or father.
Yeah.
To be able to share that with somebody else, and for them to say, all right, you're not alone. You're not and we care for you, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's an important work that you do. So 20 years is a big milestone. And so how are you celebrating that?
So we're going kind of back to our roots, and we're having a 20th anniversary brunch on December 6th at the Holiday Inn, just to kind of acknowledge the very first luncheon that our founders, Linda and Lori, held.
Are Linda and Lori going to be there?
I hope so. They're invited.
Oh, this is good.
Yeah, we wanna try and bring back as many of like the past board members and room families and, you know, volunteers who have helped us over those 20 years. You know, we have a lot of volunteers from way in the beginning who still help out on a project once a year. So it's pretty special.
And are you you'll have pictures of projects that you've done and really blow it up really good for people, so that if a curiosity seeker, somebody who says, well, yeah, I'd like to eat and I want to go to a brunch, they come in, they can find out a little bit more about what A Room to Heal does. So how would they buy tickets for that?
We will have a link right on our website.
Okay.
aroomtoheal.org. It'll be super easy. You can go right on there and purchase tickets.
And if a person wanted to make a donation to the Room to Heal so that kids could have a room, you know, when they're going through these illnesses, how would people be able to do that?
Again, we have everything on our website. We try and make it pretty easy.
And what was the website again?
It's www.aroomtoheal.org. Yep,
And-
right at the top, there's a big donate button.
And if they hit the button, it'll come down to how they can make a donation.
It
right?
does, yep.
And again, if people would like to volunteer, the volunteer form is right there on the website too.
It is
right?
too, yep.
And then they get to meet with a really nice person. So at that point, you get to have a meeting with Laura, and for you to be able to make a difference in a child's life who's really going through a pretty dark time in their life, and to make their life a little bit lighter. It's an important job, important organization in our area, and you do amazing work. So what's your hope as executive director for the future of A Room to Heal?
Gosh. I hope we can just help more kids, I think one of our fears is that we're missing some. They're slipping through the cracks. But we've been doing our best to spread awareness of our organization and make sure that people know about us and know how to refer kids to us. And I think we would love to grow our area a little bit, like where we serve, maybe go up into the Syracuse area a little bit, because I know that there aren't any other organizations similar to us up that way. There is one like Buffalo, Rochester area, but
is there a network, or how do you communicate to each other? How did you find out about them in Buffalo?
Google.
Google does a lot of
Yeah,
good.
yeah, no. There's another, and I think they only serve kids who have cancer. But yeah, there are a few other similar organizations across the country, but they're kind of in little pockets. There's one down in North Carolina that I've talked to. They reached out to us. They just came across us and it was kind of fun chatting, like, how do you guys do this? What do you do about that kind of a thing? And then the one out in Michigan. But there aren't very many of us. And it's a service that's so helpful for families that we would love to try and help more, and along with that comes with, needing more funding and needing more people, but hopefully over the next couple of years we can grow a little bit.
Well, Laura, I think that it's an important job that you all do. Thank you for sharing that with us today, and for being on Encounter. Laura Sehn, Executive Director at the Broome County, of A Room to Heal. And for all of you, I hope that today you can help bring some light to people, like A Room to Heal does for the children that it works with, and that you would be kind and generous to each other. Have a great day.